Modern Animism Radio. I'm your host, Laura Giles. Someone recently asked me how to invoke a goddess. Great question. It's a little more meaty than I can tackle in a 5-ish minute YouTube video, so that'll be the topic of today's show. And if you have that question too, stay tuned. But before we get to that, let's create sacred space. I acknowledge the earth and thank you for your groundedness, stability, the food that gives us nourishment, our home, our bodies, and all the sensual goodness that we can enjoy with our human existence. I acknowledge the air and thank you for your ideas, logic, and playfulness that keeps us from becoming too anxious and heady. I acknowledge the fire and give gratitude for your power to see things through, your creative streak, and for the balance that comes from your responsibility. I acknowledge the water and thank you for your flowing quality, the ability to go deep and into the dark, small spaces, and for keeping us in touch with our emotions so that we don't become robotic or cold. I acknowledge and thank the ancestors, the plants, animal, mineral, and human ones who are with us every day and support our walk in this lifetime. I thank and acknowledge all of you, our listeners. Without you, there would be no need to be here. So thanks for tuning in. Whether this is your first show, you pop in and out, or if you're a regular listener, we appreciate you being here. So thank you. Okay, invoking a goddess. Actually, although that was the question that was asked, I really think she meant how to evoke a goddess. In case you don't know the difference, let me explain. So invoking is about calling in an energy and embodying it or merging with it. So you and that element, spirit, or whatever it is, become one with each other. So possession is not exactly the same thing, but that's kind of close. So evoking is about inviting the energy in to share the space with you. So you're not embodying it, but you're just sharing space. And that's what we're talking about today. So we don't command goddesses or anyone else to do our bidding. They're sovereign, and so are we. It's about mutual respect. If they want to come, they will. And if they want to help, they will. They're always free to refuse. And you can think of it like a party invitation. So it's not an obligation. Calling them in doesn't mean that they're going to come. So if you're asking this question, I imagine, perhaps incorrectly, that you're also unsure about which goddess to evoke. So let's talk about that. If you already have a goddess in mind and you have a relationship with her, it makes perfect sense to evoke her. If not, you're going to want to explore a bit. So if you need help in love, nurturing, strength, homemaking, you might want to explore a goddess who specializes in those areas. Makes sense, right? So check out the various goddesses in those areas from different cultures and see if there's one that resonates with you. So get to know her whole story. How was she born? Who are her parents? What trials did she face? What deeds is she best known for? What are some kind of obscure things? And be aware that there's going to be some light and some dark. All gods before Jesus had these characteristics. We live in a complementary, dualistic world. Animists and ancients knew this. It was just something that was expected for goddesses to have light and dark too. So you look at the Old Testament God. You know, that God would wipe out a whole village, wipe out the whole world. So he was not a good and kind and loving God. He was a jealous God and a vengeful God and all of those things. And so are the other ones. So there were no all good guys until Jesus came along. Even then, they invented the devil so that the light and dark would have some balance. So if you're not willing to accept your goddess with all her story, I would say move on. You do her a disservice if you weaken her by picking and choosing the parts that you like. When people do this, eventually the whole system begins to fail. And I think that that is what's happening now with the people of the book. I think this is part of the reason why so many people are looking into paganism right now. So the Bible says that homosexual homosexuality is a bad thing and that these people are going to go to hell. People who aren't Christian, Muslim, or Jews are going to hell. Or anything that's not Christian are going to hell. Good people who don't accept Jesus as their Lord and Savior are going to hell. Women can't cut their hair. Women are unclean during their menstrual cycle. So there's all sorts of things that people don't like and want to leave out. But probably the biggest one is this idea of sacrifice. It doesn't make sense to the modern person because we have not engaged in sacrificial practices for so long. But back in the day, people had blood sacrifice. They sacrificed animals and even people. And this is why it makes sense that God would ask his most holy representative to give up his life. It was an honor to do this. And by today's standards, that is completely nonsensical and barbaric. People don't even eat meat because they think it's cruel. So how can they make sense of this story? And I'll probably break that down one day because I think it's really important. But today we're talking about evoking goddesses. So that's all I'll say about that now. Takeaway from that is that you have to accept the whole story. You can't just pick and choose. And you might be tempted to sanitize, don't sanitize, because there's a reason why all of these elements are there. So I would even go so far as to say to look to the oldest stories because they're going to have the least amount of distortion. So be sure to take note of her personality, what types of offerings she might want, that kind of thing. And what does she value? What are modern values? Are they your values? Gods belong to a certain people at a certain time. So this could mean that she really, really belongs to another era. If you look at the ancient Greek myths, you'll see a lot of stories about gods raping women. So you can bet that that was part of their society as well. You also see goddesses of agriculture, the home, love, fertility, the hunt, chastity. So this also tells you something about what was important to those people. But don't be swayed by a pretty story or don't be tempted to pretty up a story. While Moana and Elsie, is that her name from Frozen, might have strong stories, they don't have any real suffering. They haven't made any mistakes. They haven't, done some really crazy stuff. And this is where the juice comes from. This is where the growth and strength comes from. So be careful not to whitewash your goddess or overlook someone because she seems too terrible. If you really look at the whole picture, zoom out. It could teach you about compassion, forgiveness, life, and yourself. If you don't see that, keep looking. Maybe you need to confront some of your own prejudices, or your own self-righteousness, or your own blocks, that kind of thing, acceptance. The reason that this goddess has all these qualities you want are because she's had some life experience. She's been tried. Maybe she was abandoned, humiliated, raped, or betrayed. Aren't we all? Not that we've had all of those experiences, but we all have stuff, something. And it's how we endure and get through that makes us grow. It makes us shine even brighter. So if your goddess doesn't work for you, just remember that the gods are abandoned when they no longer serve the people. So it's reciprocal. They need us. We need them. When we are godless, we can become lost. Why? Well, gods are both powerful and unknown. That's kind of why we have them. So when we get stuck in a place where we don't know what to do, we have to appeal to something. Or we don't have to. We choose to, maybe. Those of us who believe in gods. We choose to believe in something because it gives us hope and a way to connect. And when we go into these places where we don't know what's happening, that's what they're there for. They help us to engage in this unknown and walk through it with power and hope. So we kind of borrow it for them or give it over to them. Another way to choose your goddess is by intuition. Maybe she's calling to you. Do you dream about her? Do you see her symbol or pictures everywhere? Check it out. Maybe that's why. Maybe she wants a relationship with you. I was told by a psychic that I served in the temple of Diana in a past life. So me, I'm a skeptic, believe it or not. But I'm an open-minded one. So when I saw temples to Diana in Turkey and Greece, I checked them out. But I didn't feel anything special there. So maybe it was true, maybe it wasn't true, but whatever it is it's not having an impact on this time. So I've kind of put that story to bed. I've been to many temples to Isis, One in Pompeii was particularly nice, but again, no draw. So I have some pretty spectacular experiences with Segment, so that's worth checking out for me. So that's kind of what I mean. Look to your experience and see, is somebody calling to me? What am I drawn to? And don't rush. Take your time on adopting a patron goddess. It's a patron, It's not like we have them all over now. We're not in Athens when Athena was a patron goddess of a whole city. So this is a personal relationship. You have to get to know each other. This could take months or even years. It's a process. Learn about her and yourself. Think about who deserves your devotion. That's what this is. You don't just evoke her, ask for favors, and then dip out. She's not a fairy godmother who does your bidding and then leaves. She's going to want something from you. And in the animist world, it's always about reciprocity. So you can't expect to receive without giving something. So once you have decided on who your goddess is, you're going to want to meet her in your inner world. And this basically just means a meditation. So prepare it like you're going on a date. Make it special. Maybe you want to light a candle, light some incense, or have some aromatherapy. And you're going to sit in meditation for a while, clear your mind, get centered, and then invite her into your inner sanctum. So that's just wherever you go when you're doing inner work. Notice how she appears. It may or may not be what you imagine. Maybe she's older, she's younger, she's a completely different form, so maybe she doesn't even have any form. Maybe she's a light or a feeling. Maybe she's an animal. However she appears, accept that. If she doesn't look like her stereotypical self, this is even better, because when she appears in the form she shows to you, whether that's a feeling, symbol, animal, or whatever, you will always know it's her. So it's not like, if let's say it's Athena and then you walk in somewhere and then you happen to see a depiction of Athena. Well, was it because that thing's just been there forever, or is it for you? That's kind of what I mean. Now, if it's something like that, it probably is, a message for you saying, hey, I'm here. Anyways, because we don't really see a lot of goddesses wherever we go. At least I don't. So use that information, all of that stuff that you got in your inner world meditation to create an altar. So this is going to be the focal point of your devotion. You can do this in the inner world, but I suggest that it be a physical altar in the apparent world. On it, include the things that you saw that she likes when you visited her. So maybe flowers, candles, some kind of scent, symbols. It could be a statue. Whatever speaks to you. It could be something very personal, like maybe you paint and you want to paint a picture for her. So you want it to be special. This is the place that the two of you meet, and so it's not a carbon copy of someone else's vision or what you think it's supposed to be. So it's good to go online and get ideas of what other people's goddess altars look like, but you don't want to duplicate it. You want to make it your own for you and your goddess. When you're ready to evoke her, visualize her in full sensory detail. So you've already had a session with her, so you already have that information. And see your inner sanctum. Notice what she's wearing, if anything. Notice the sounds that are around you, the way that the light appears, any feelings. Just pay attention to every little thing. So we want to make it fully sensory. And then once you kind of got a sense of all of that and you're fully grounded in that space, tell her why you invited her here. Ask for her help. Be specific, because you don't want unintended consequences or things to manifest in ways that aren't helpful. So tell her what stands in the way of you getting what you want so that she can help you with the obstacle. This will help both of you to be clear on what you want. It will help you to see, too, if you've actually done anything to help yourself. For me, that's really, really important. And it's going to show her that you're trying. So you're not just coming here with hat in hand begging for something that you could do for yourself. And if you look at all the Greek tales of heroes who got divine intervention, it's almost always at a time when they're doing what they need to do to help themselves. Greek gods just don't show up when you're loafing around and complaining and being idle. They swoop in the thick of battle. So you want to also give her an offering. Since you've already done your homework, you have a pretty good idea of what she'd like, and maybe if you're doing your daily devotionals, then you're already doing that. So good for you. And this could be, like I said, your favorite flower, a poem, a food, songs, a crystal, something that you've created, something you made. And to end it all, you're going to put a time limit on it. So this is not saying, hey, do this by this date or else. This is not like an ultimatum or a demand. It's just being specific. If you don't put a time limit on it, it could be a year or 10 years. And time doesn't exist for them the way that it does for us. So for me, I go from moon phase to moon phase. So the most it's going to be is 2 weeks. And I also tend to do this at the new moon. And the new moon is new beginnings. So it's a good time for asking for help or favors. Now, this doesn't mean that the thing has to manifest in 2 weeks. It just means that I've gotten some feedback to let me know that the request was received within 2 weeks. So let me give you an example how this might go. So, oh great goddess, and you can put her actual name here if you want, or oh great goddess is fine. I ask for your favor. I would like blank. So you're going to fill in the blank with whatever it is, like help with a project, help finding a suitable mate, help with overcoming shyness. I haven't been able to blank what. So like summon the courage, find a mentor, save the money, get a job, whatever. I acknowledge that I have to sacrifice, and I ask for your what blank. Wisdom, patience, compassion, love, support, warrior energy, whatever it is, to help me see this through. You could ask for the winning lottery numbers, but it generally doesn't work like that. You can kind of look around you in the world and see that. But you won't know till you ask, so everybody's different. You know, if you get lottery numbers, then go ahead and ask for that. And you never know till you try, so if that's something that you want to ask for, go for it and see what happens. I offer blank. So whatever you're offering, these flowers, chocolate, this song. And I ask for a song of confirmation during this moon phase to show that you've accepted my plea. So let me go through that one more time without the pauses, options, explanations, as that might help to make it clearer, because I think that might be a little bit confusing. Okay, so here we go. So, oh Sekhmet, I ask for your favor. I would like help ending this relationship. I haven't been able to make a final break. I acknowledge that I have to sacrifice, and I ask for your courage and destructive power to help me finish this once and for all. I offer my poem in gratitude. Please send me a sign of confirmation during this moon phase to let me know that you've heard my plea. So be it. So to create an ongoing relationship with your goddess, and this could be done prior to evoking her, I actually suggest that. So each morning, or at any time that suits you, but at regular intervals, make an offering. Give gratitude at your altar and see or feel her watching over you in your mind's eye. So this is going to juice up the altar and make that connection between the two of you stronger. The more you do it with intention, sincerity, and feeling, the more alive it becomes. This might feel a little like Linus in The Great Pumpkin, but it's real for him because he just knows it is. And if you don't believe it, your goddess probably isn't going to prove it to you. She doesn't have to. So do you want to just jump through the hoops to prove things to other people? Probably not. Me neither. So basically what I'm saying is trust. And know that what's real leaves clues. So I'm not asking you to believe blindly. Sooner or later, you're going to see proof. People haven't put their faith in gods for thousands of years without a reason. You know, we kind of abandon things that don't work. Now, I know it can sound silly. Talking about something like this with words can sound pretty ridiculous, or at least like fantasy, but most things that are profoundly meaningful exist in the realm where words are inadequate. Have you ever had something really special happen and you couldn't really convey it to someone else? When you try, it comes out sounding like it's no big deal. Kind of like what I just went through, right? Same with this. I'm pretty tactile, and I'm not the greatest with words anyways. As you can see today, I'm just like stumbling all over the place. Mercury's in retrograde. So is a friend of mine. She's the same way. So she was struggling to talk about something the other day, and she just could not get the words out. But we connected on the feeling level. And when I just smiled and nodded, she knew that I got it. So sometimes we don't need words. Sometimes there are no words. So I think that this is one of those times when words don't do a topic justice. You just have to try it out for yourself and see if the experience is greater than the picture the words paint. And try it out more than once. Because, if you've never done this before, there's a little awkwardness and you kind of have to get into the flow. And really, that's why I'm always talking about experience, experience, experience. Do this thing. Have an experience. Because the words really, it's really a lot more than that. So I'd love to hear about your experience in your goddess. Feel free to drop me a line at laura@pansociety.net, or you can always leave a comment on any of our social media pages. And this opens up the conversation for others to join in. It also helps our page stats, so it helps us to reach more people. So if you benefited in any way from this program or any Pan Society podcast, article, or YouTube video, and you want to help us out, that's one way to do so. You can also always donate on our website at pansociety.net. One more thing before I leave the topic of evoking goddesses is that you want to be careful about how many you have on your altar. You can have as many goddesses as you want. You can have one that sees you through your whole lifetime, some that just see you through certain periods in your life. But when you are mixing and matching pantheons, so that's like here I have an Indian goddess and a Chinese one and a Native American one and then it gets really, really sticky because they have very different worlds. They occupy different worlds. They might not like each other. They might be enemies. They might just not flow very well together. So before you introduce another one, you want to make sure that the one that is already there is okay with it. And really sticking with the same pantheon is a great, great idea. I highly recommend that. So this topic came from one of our listeners, and if you have a topic or question that you would like to see us talk about, drop us a line. If you're interested in group mentoring to move your spiritual path along, check us out at pansociety.university. Sherry and I have mentoring classes over there where we talk about things like this and more, and in more detail too. So thanks for tuning in. This is Laura Giles from Modern Animism Radio. See you next week.